Hello, I am Heather and I am here to talk to you today about some great lace knitting tips. I am the owner here of Ewe Ewe Yarns and we have a ton of fun projects to talk about today, along with some great tips and tricks for knitting lace projects. So knitting lace is perfect for transitional times of year because it is looser and more open. So you're getting a little bit of warmth, but you're also getting kind of a lighter fabric and a little air movement through your project and your finished garment. So it is really good for springtime knitting and fall knitting and, summer evening shawls, and you're adding like a light layer that's maybe like romantic, a lovely look, and then you get just a little bit of warmth. So the first question I have is, do you have to use lace weight yarn to knit lace? And the short answer is no, absolutely not. Lace weight yarn is like the thinnest yarn that is made for the hand knitting market, but lace can be knit in any weight. I have projects here from sport weight up to chunky bulky weight. So you can go with a thinner yarn. This is our fingering weight and it makes beautiful lace. You can see here in this pretty shawl, but you can also knit lace in bulky weight, which is really neat. As you can see in this scarf here called the Marmalade Dream, beautiful eyelet pattern, and you can knit lace up on a larger needle. So this is called the Love Note sweater, and I did a whole video about it, so you could check that out if you're interested in it. But that used a fingering weight yarn and a mohair held together, but then knit up on a 10 needle, like a 6mm. So it made it really light and loose, but you can still really see that lace that's happening. So lace weight yarn, not necessary. You can knit with any weight yarn. Then I also get asked a lot, is lace knitting hard? And my short answer is, it doesn't have to be. My favorite lace projects use just a couple of repeats, and like take this cowl for example. This is called the Rush cowl, and I love it because it only works lace in these little tiny like 1-inch sections. So you can knit along, and if you happen to make a mistake, you don't have miles and miles of lace that you have to rip back. You can just go back a little bit and fix your project. So the Rush cowl, which is a free knitting pattern here at Ewe Ewe Yarns, you can download it. There's a link in the description below. The Rush cowl is a perfect project for a knitter on the go, or a newer knitter that maybe wants to try knitting lace for the first time. So this is a great project, and I do have yarn kits available too. It's using our sport weight and just 2 balls of each, 2 balls, 1 of each color. So super fun little project and not an overwhelming array of lace. So just great little project. I would highly recommend. The third question I get asked a lot is, does lace knitting use less yarn? And the short answer is, it definitely can, because the stitches are so open. You're getting a lot of mileage on your project while you're knitting that lacy open work, as opposed to when you're knitting the more solid stockinette stitch. So take for example this little project. It's called the Cupcake Cardi, and it uses 3 balls of yarn, and you probably use 1.5 of them just up here in the bodice, and then this like cute little skirt part is just so light and open that it just flies off your needles, and it definitely uses less yarn. So the next question I get asked is, do you need to know how to read a stitch chart to knit lace? And the answer is no. I do not really like to read stitch charts when I knit. I prefer to use the written instructions. And so all the patterns here at UU that have lace have written, and some have charts, but there will always be the written instructions. So in the case of this rush cowl that I said, the free pattern, you have all the instructions nicely written out with the stitch glossary, and you can just go through and follow them row by row, just like any other regular knitting pattern. So it's a lot of fun. I get asked a lot too about how do you keep track of your knitting and your lace and your repeats. And my favorite tool is called the Rows and Repeats Tracker, which is a fun little sticky notepad from our friends at Billy and Ba. We carry these at uu.com, and you can see there is a section for your rows that you've worked, and then for your repeats about how many times you have worked them. So in the case of this cowl, you can mark off your rows and that you've worked your repeats 5 times, and you can just check off each time. So super handy little tool is the Rows and Repeats Tracker. And then my other trick for keeping track of lace knitting is stitch markers. On the Love Note sweater, this repeated the lace stitch pattern maybe, I want to guess, like 18 times around. So in that case, I used little stitch markers at every repeat of the stitch because it's such a big project. I didn't want to get lost on any given row. So if I got off, I knew I could finish the row and I could count each section to make sure I had the right number of stitches. So stitch markers are definitely the way to go. We carry these adorable little clips, so you can just keep some with you, or you can load this up and have a couple, whatever you need. Another super fun product that we carry here, little notions. And then the last thing I wanted to talk about is I get asked, what yarns work well for knitting lace? The answer is natural fibers work best for lace knitting. So here, like in the case of our merino yarn, you can see how great these stitches open up. Just nice big eyelets. And now they don't necessarily look like that while you're knitting it. You can see here in the case of my Love Note, while it was on the needles, it's all kind of condensed and smushed together. But then after you block it, which is the process of putting your finished garment in like a wet bath and then letting it open up and dry, it lets those stitches open up. And part of the ideal thing about natural fibers is that when they get wet, they can expand, and then when they dry, they stay where they've been changed to. So especially with merino wool, which all of our yarns are 100% merino wool, the strength of the wool and springiness, once it gets wet, it sets out and stays put where it is. I'll bring out the cupcake cardi again because you can really see how well that stockinette stitch stayed there, and then how all of this lace just opens up and says, "Oh, thank you." And it stays put. So you just wet block it, let it dry completely, and it's like your wool says, "Okay, this is my new home and this is where I'll stay." So one bonus tip I'd like to give you too is always make sure you're knitting your lace project in good light. It is key to see your stitches, and it just helps you have the most successful project that you can. So if you'd like to knit the rush cowl, like I said, we have links in the description below that you can download this free pattern, or you can get a yarn kit for it at our website, and those links are all down below. If you decide you'd like to knit a love note sweater, you can check out my video for that. I've got all the details about the yarn and what size I knit and everything like that. You can find our merino yarn on our website, along with these cute and helpful notions. We have all the links down below. Thank you for tuning in today. I hope you picked up a tip or two for your next lace knitting project. Have a great day, and thank you for being a part of the Ewe Ewe Yarns knitting community.